Nation. Join us now for Family Mix Mondays with licensed professional counselor Jaketra Bryant. Tune in as Jaketra shows the different dynamics that make up family. Whether you represent the nuclear family, single parent, extended, grandparent, or blended family, Jaketra has tips and advice designed to strengthen your family structure. Source Nation, here is your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Good evening, Source Nation. I am your host, Jaketra Bryant, and I want to welcome you to Family Mixed Mondays. I am so looking forward to my show tonight. We are continuing our series of self-care for parents. This is something that I'm actually taking in for myself and taking notes each and every guest that I have. I know oftentimes I do a lot of things on sounding as if I'm fussing at parents, where I want you to be involved more. I want you to do this and talk to the parent, talk to your kid more about this or about that. But it is so important also to have that balanced life, because everything that you do affects your children, your teens, your pre-adults. And what we model, they begin to model as well. And sometimes just taking some time out and knowing when to take time out is going to be so effective and healing for your family when it is time for self-care. So I wanted you to know what that looks like psychologically and emotionally today. Because it's easy to say, okay, I go get my nails done or I go to the store and my kids aren't here. But it's a different thing to know when it's time to actually take a mental health day, and knowing that it's okay to take care of your mental health, and knowing when you need to take care, when your body's actually signaling that to you. So I have a guest today who's going to shine some light on our mental health side so that you'll know as parents when it's time to take this mental health day and pay more attention to your psychological and your emotional needs. I know sometimes it's difficult if you are a single parent or if you are living under this, I guess, not really stereotype, but living under this standard as a black woman or as a black male, where society may tell you that if you're not working, you're not doing anything. And so I know self-care and taking some time out for yourself kind of goes against that. And I want to be able to have a clear conversation where this is something that you understand that this is necessary when we're talking about breaking a lot of these cycles that are happening within our family lines, and what this effect does to our children, our youth, and our young adults. And so we definitely will be having that discussion today on our self-care for parents. And so before I bring on the guests, I want to definitely stop and thank our sponsors, and they are Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Paper to Film Productions, Revolution Meals, and Renovations. And so after the break, we have Jaketra Reed. She's a licensed professional counselor and licensed clinical addiction specialist. And so I'll tell you all about her after the break, and so join me back in.
Source Nation, stay tuned. You're listening live to Family Mix Mondays with your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Source Radio Network is just one of the many platforms that is used to fulfill dreams of our listeners and create a purpose that will impact the lives of our communities, cities, and the world. It is often said that great things will happen when a group of driven people work together to accomplish one goal. We're giving people the opportunity to have a voice, translate words that haven't been heard, and paint pictures that no one has seen. Source Radio Network is fueling your life's purpose. How can you listen? www.blogtalkradio.com/Source Radio.
Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Family Mix Mondays with your host, Jaketra Bryant.
Welcome back, Source Nation. I'm your host, Jaketra Bryant, and we are continuing our series of self-care for parents. So before the break, I stated that we have a guest who's going to shine some light on our mental health side, our emotional needs that we need to have as parents in order to have this self-care. And so she is an expert in so many areas. And so we have Richale Reed. She is a transformation specialist with more than 20-plus years of successfully navigating her own transformation through life's storms, hills, and valleys, from childhood abuse and poverty to the effects of mental illness, eventually overcoming it all. And so people say that Richale is an innovative thinker who is passionate about her work. She has genuine speaking skills, and her energy holds a room. She has a master's degree in professional counseling and is licensed as a professional counselor and licensed addiction specialist. And I am so excited that she's going to shine some light on our topic of self-care for parents. And so I do believe we have Ms. Richale Reed in the studio. How are you? And thank you so much for joining me this evening.
I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for joining us and on this series. And so we've been doing a series on self-care for parents. And as a parent myself, I've definitely found out that self-care and having that balance is necessary. And that's from the working mom to the school mom to the mom staying at home to just sky's the limit of these roles that our parents play, moms, dads, grandparents, all of it. And I know that we can't do it all unless we stop for a moment to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely want to shine some light on that particular area today. But before we jump into that topic, tell Source Nation just some more about who you are, new things you got going on, anything they can jump on board for.
Okay, well, a lot of times when I do these shows, I always give so much information. So I'm going to say today that for everything that I have going on, the best place to go is to richalereed.com, and it's RICHALE, Reed, REED.com. And as you said, I kind of got my hands in a lot of different things, but I believe all of those things that I'm doing in my life, I'm called to do them, so they're not as difficult as one might think. And when they get difficult, I have something higher than myself to pull me up and say, keep going. So right now I work for an organization helping people with crisis stabilization and mental health and substance use issues. I also have my own private practice called Catafly's Life Work, making your life's work your life's work. And I primarily do therapy online. I'll be opening an office in Fayetteville, North Carolina in November. It got pushed back. We were supposed to open a month or so ago, but, something good can't be rushed. So we're going to open that office in November in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And because I found out that everybody is not on that wave of doing things online, but that's exactly where we're going to as far as therapy and health services. But if we can get into self-care, then we could probably eliminate some of those visits to see therapists and other people. Now, of course, we want you to come, but if you can begin to put some things in place ahead of time, then you will definitely decrease that. If you begin to take care of your mental health and your physical health, you will not only decrease, visits to the therapist, but you'll decrease visits to the doctor. And I've seen that even in my own life. I hardly have to go see the doctor anymore because of so many changes that I've made in my life. For self-care, sometimes therapists are thought to not see therapists, but I've seen a therapist before myself. And so that is self-care for me because I'm pretty much, I guess, I take a licking and keep on ticking. So I'm my husband said the other day my middle name is Resilience. However, even with that said, there's a certain level of care that we need to take for ourselves. And I even thought to myself the other day, You hadn't been to the spa in a minute. You need to go to the spa just because you need to go, because that's the thing that you do, that you enjoy, that allows you to relax when life gets a little hectic for you. So self-care is really important. So I'm actually glad that you have this platform to talk about it on a consistent basis, because for some reason we don't do it. We don't. Is it that we don't value ourselves enough? Is it that we weren't taught to do that, and so it's not a habit in our lives? Is it because it's something that we don't value? What is it? But for some reason, mothers and even single women are not taking that time out to care for themselves, and we have got to address that issue.
I agree. I think so. I think one of the things that we are challenged with is when we do rest, the stigma behind resting and doing, and people thinking that, like, well, you have a child, you brought this child into this world, so you give up everything in your life. And I think, like, we got to fight down that mentality, because nothing good ever comes out of someone just going and going and going and going. Even a flashlight needs new batteries, and it provides light. And
right.
So I agree. I think one of the things is that we are lacking first of all, the education about what it does to us psychologically, what it does to us emotionally. And I think first we have to break down that barrier that's there, where people say you're not deserving of self-care and some time to yourself or your own time out.
That's true. And as parents, and I'm not a parent, I've helped other people parent, but that brings up a good point to make. As a parent, you should have people like Richale in your life that are friends and supporters in your village to help you raise your children. I think that there's also a prevailing message that you brought that child into the world, so you got to do it all. But you need a team of people to help you raise your child and to raise your child effectively. And although we know that in these days and times, even many predators are family members, so I think there's another message there that we're afraid to trust other people, to allow other people to come in and help us. But everyone needs and deserves a level of support. So as a parent, you have to create with positive thoughts and wisdom in who you bring into that nucleus, right? You have to create that environment that not only supports you and gives you that downtime, but also gives your kid a break from you. Don't you think your kid needs a break from you sometimes?
I had to learn that. I have a little 9-year-old little boy, and I had to learn that because poor baby sometimes. He is at the nail salon with me. He's so used to going to a nail salon with me, he just get right in the massage chair. And so it just sit on there and do his thing, because I guess he's like, hey, if I got to be here. But he was drugged everywhere, from every single church event to the nail salon, to the hair salon, to everywhere I had to go. Poor him. He just got to a point, he was like, can you ask the neighbors to watch me? And so, like, I realized I think he needed a break from going to all my particular tasks. But I had to break down that mindset that said that it's okay to not take him to the nail salon and have this moment to yourself. Like, you've worked hard, not only at your 40-hour week, but you came home and did another full-time job. So it's okay to do that. And so I wanted to talk about, like, from the mental health standpoint, the communication piece. What do you think? What do you think is happening with why people aren't communicating that they need this help? And if so, like, how can people start communicating and finding some good resources like yourself, or some good support neighbors, or things like that, and just learn the first step, communicating it?
Well, it's funny. I kind of anticipated this coming up for some reason, because nothing happens for nothing. So today, when I was doing group today, and I'm working with a group of people who are duly diagnosed mental health and substance abuse issues, and we talked about that whole idea of, has anybody ever asked you what you really want in life? What is it that you really want? And for many people, because that question hasn't been asked, they don't feel they have the voice to say. So our voice gets stifled. We lose it, and we lose ourselves in the process. So we don't really know a lot of times how to communicate to somebody else what it is that we really want. And that's a big problem. We have to be able to, first of all, admit to ourselves, this is what I really want in my life. To be honest with ourselves first, and then to be honest with others and to trust others with the dream. Now, we've all been taught you cannot trust everybody with your dream because there's dream killers, stealers, and robbers, right? And so we have to use wisdom about that. But if there is the sacred nucleus of people, the villagers that you have who are helping you in this journey, you are going to have to find the courage to share that information with them. And if you don't know how to do that, then a resource like a therapist who can help you learn how to communicate, and maybe not even in an individual session, but in a family session. I remember, and I don't know because, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I don't know if this show is still on, but is that Whitley lady that has the show, her raising her son that she adopted, and she has this whole village of people that are helping her. And I remember seeing an episode where they all were just in there together having that family meeting. That didn't come out of the blue. That came from somewhere. We used to do things like that. We came from a culture that used to value family meetings. And we came from a culture that saw that it wasn't all just on that mom or all just on that dad. But we live in a culture now where we have single moms, we have single dads, and so we're still trying to learn how to navigate. But communication is key. And if you don't feel like you have a voice to share how you feel, then a lot of times we begin to harbor our feelings, and our feelings will trick us. They'll trick us into having these negative thought patterns that don't serve us well. So if you're going to have good mental health, you have to begin to deal with some of those negative thoughts and some of the values, because when you hear the word value, you think of something positive. But sometimes we have negative value systems, and we have to learn how to reach out in a supportive way. And therapy is not the only supportive way. Some people find effective ways to communicate and learn how to grow and do personal self-development. Some people learn how to do that in their home churches. If you have a good home church that has different events specifically for single parents, there are support groups for parents who, I was helping somebody today with getting information on a parent who lost a child. I have many people who come to me who have more than one child, but when they lose one to death, it's almost like the death of that parent, and they don't know how to move past and continue to parent their other children. And self-care for them totally gets gone.
Mm-hmm. It's so amazing of what all taking a few minutes or what you do physically, emotionally, psychologically can actually do to a lot of other areas in our lives. And it's so amazing. And so people really do, they neglect it. But, it's hard because I have to admit it, as a person who is currently getting her doctorate, who does the radio show, who works full-time, who has an elementary school kid, who's dating, who is active in a sorority, my friends have to tell me don't take on nothing else. But I think that also speaks to the village. Like you said, knowing when to go out and ask for that help, knowing who to get as a support, but also being mindful of those people so they can actually let you know, hey, you've been running around, it's showing, you're going off on the kid, you're going off on everybody's kid, it's time to sit down. So having that village be able to be real with you and say it's okay also to sit down.
And also some of us have a hard time being still. So you can tell yourself, I need to, like I'm listening to that radio show, and I need to do self-care. I deserve self-care. But what does self-care look like? Like I go and sit down and think, I'm tired. Like I'm literally tired. I'm physically and I'm mentally tired. I don't need a diagnosis for that. I know that I am running on vapors right now. So when I go and rest, because I realize all I really need is rest. I don't need to go to the nail shop. I don't need to create another event. I need to lay down and rest my body. I haven't given myself enough sleep. I need to give myself that. But then you go to attempt it with all of that motivation, and you like, oh, God, I can hear the clock ticking. I can, what so-and-so doing? Oh, my phone's dinging. I got to pick that up. That dish over there needs washing, and clothes need to be done, and the kids really need me, and they're doing without. You don't know how to sit down and rest. And your body is screaming at you. Your mind is screaming at you to rest. And so the danger in that is when we don't listen. Because you know what? We know this. At the end of the day, your body will get what it needs one way or the other.
Oh, boy, yes. That's an excellent point. Let's talk about those particular signs, because there are some physiological things that your body begins to tell you before you want to listen to it. And so, I think one of the things that we don't think about, and some of this can be helped by nutrition. We mentioned that earlier too. Mm-hmm. Some of this can be helped by some of the other things that we're doing and looking at different areas of our life, different life domains. So, but I think about brain fog. Like when you can't even think straight no more, and you don't know what that is, and you're like, oh, I just feel a little, I can't really get my thoughts together. And it'll be all right. I'll be all right after a little bit. I just need like a 5-minute break. When your body is saying, no, sister, girlfriend, you need a few days of doing nothing, because you're just not together right now. Your mind is not together. You're in a fog, and that fog does not lift until you give your body what it needs. That's a huge one. But we're just thinking, I just need about 5 minutes. No. You need a vacation. And that vacation, if you're like me, is not you going on vacation to do more things. It is you laying on your couch for 24 hours doing nothing. And for some of us, that is so hard to do. So brain fog is one thing. But literally, sometimes your physical body can just conk out, and you'll begin to have symptoms like shaking and digestive issues, and you're trying to figure out, well, what did I eat? No, your nervous system is saying, I'm nervous. I got anxiety. I'm running on fumes. Can we sit down? Can
we take a break? Yeah. So some of the things that you associate with other conditions really are conditions of our bodies telling us that we need rest. Increased insomnia. The more we don't give our body sleep, the less sleep it begins to function on, and which again increases the brain fog. So what the bad thing about this is it's cyclical. So you get one symptom, that symptom feeds into the next symptom, and that symptom feeds into the next symptom, and you're just Looney Tunes by the time you get done, and everybody else around you can see it, but you still yet holding on. And you know what else? Part of that is also, too, because of a mindset and a negative value system that we're strong women, and or you're the man of the house, and you just got to keep going.
I was just about to say that. I think it kind of goes back to this mindset that we actually have to break down as to what this looks like if I stop. And so I was reading something earlier, and they had like an excellent question. And I was like, I wonder how can we ask that. Now, I was wondering, how can we explain to people that what does self-care have to do with, or a person not taking self-care have to do with the actual child or children itself? So what does, like, if I don't take self-care, what in turn does that do to these relationships
to your children?
With our children? Mm-hmm.
Well, the first and foremost, and to me the most blaring thing is, it teaches our children that this is how they treat themselves. So the same value system that we come from, that we know is negative, and we really, because you know what, I know this, I don't care who the parent is, every parent on the face of this earth wants better for their children than they had for themselves. You want better. And so not being able to show them that, we have to be good examples to our children. That's what you're responsible for, setting the example. And I think we all do the best with what we have, but we can't use that as an excuse not to change some things that we know need changing. And so if you've been running yourself in the ground, if you've been not honoring yourself by not allowing your body, your mind, and we didn't talk about the spirit, allowing your spirit to rest, that's where peace be still comes from. In our minds, bodies, and spirits, we need peace to be still so that we can move forward with a graciousness, right? And we can be that example to our children of what self-care is, and not only that, but what fulfillment is. We are trying to fill our lives with so many things, with so many tasks, with so many obligations. Rest. Peace be still. Give yourself that, because you're worth it.
I agree. And it is. I remember just last night, ironically, probably not by any kind of coincidence pertaining to the conversation today. Just last night I was writing papers, my son down there doing work, and just so much happening. And I found myself snapping at him. And I found myself so to a point that he got teary-eyed. And so I literally had to take a moment this morning to really check myself and to check where I am with all the particular tasks I've taken on and what that now did to my attitude that I displaced onto him. And luckily, I'm one of those parents that can humble myself in a minute to really take accountability and apologize. And so, but I realized, I was like, okay, that was an opportunity to recheck myself, to recognize that there are lots of tasks, and these tasks are now interfering with what I'm projecting on to him. And it's really, really important to take those moments mentally, physically, spiritually, and just know and do that for yourself. And so, Source Nation, I want to give you an opportunity to jump in with this conversation and ask any kind of questions you have, or just talk about your experience with it. If you want to talk to our guests, and the number dialing is 619-924-0933. That's 619-924-0933, and press option 1. You are talking to our licensed professional counselor, Richale Reed. And so, Richale, you and I will get back to it and talk more on some particular signs, because I want parents to kind of see, when is it time to jump into this self-care? And so in your office and just your experience with other parents, whether male or female, what are some particular mental health signs, or I guess symptoms, that may be common in this case, where it's saying, hey, it's time for your time out now, when it comes to the mental side of things?
Yeah, I think what you just shared is one of the key things too. So we know what your baseline is. Like, you know, I get frustrated, I get irritated, but baseline. Baseline is this is my normal. But then when I get real antsy and everything starts bothering me and I start snapping at people, that's a really, really good sign. And so I like how you said I realized that I needed to check myself, because I always, refer to the rap lyrics, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. And what's wonderful is how, a parent who is growing and learning more about themselves as a parent and their effect that they have on their children will go that extra step and say to their child, hey, mom's been going through X, Y, and Z, blase, 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 and I apologize because I realize I've been a little moody and snappy, and I didn't mean to make you, collateral damage to what mommy's going through right now. How are you feeling? Can we talk about it? And so these are opportunities to grow, to also show our children that we're not flawless, right? We have our moments. We're teaching them. Right. So you're either teaching them out of, some uncomfortable situations, but it'll help them know what to do when it happens to them. They're human. And so we also learn in this process to have compassion with ourselves. Another way to know that you may need a timeout is, I think you said earlier about how sometimes others around you can see it and sometimes they'll check you. What happens then is you have to be open to it. Just like if you worked with a therapist, you have to be open to being checked by that therapist. If you work with me, I'm going to check you. Why? Because I believe in that reality therapy. It is what it is. This is where we are. And in order to change, the only way you can change is to admit where you are and embrace it. Once you do that, we can go anywhere you want to go. I think another sign of realizing that maybe you need a timeout is just being really weary, like the Bible says, don't be weary in well-doing. But sometimes we take on so much that causes us to become a little weary, and we begin to physically and or mentally run out of fumes. So, again, go back to your baseline. What is my baseline? How am I when I'm normal or when I'm just okay? What's my normal? Because now, all of a sudden, I'm at this new normal, and this don't look familiar to me. So what you start being able to say what those signs are. This doesn't look familiar to me. This is not the place that I'm even comfortable in. But I want to give a caveat there, because not being comfortable is not always a sign of something bad. Sometimes, in order to grow, we have to be put in an uncomfortable place. But just go back to just go back to your baseline and say, okay, because we'll stay there for a little bit. So that uncomfortable place that you might be in for a minute, maybe it's just meant for you to be there because there's something that you need to learn. So in that space, then I would say, okay, hunker down and let peace be still. Just remind yourself, this is a place that I need to be in order to go to the next level. It doesn't mean that I've done something wrong. It doesn't mean that the universe is working against me. It means that here's an opportunity for me, and if I can, be mindful about the space that I'm in right now. Anxiety is another thing that we need to watch out for, right? So if I can calm the anxiety that I'm having with this uncomfortable place, then I can steady the course. And I won't get off track. I'll be okay. And I'll steady the course, and I'll get through this thing, and I'll be okay on the other side. I just got to pace myself. So that's really important too.
Yeah, it's so important. Oh my goodness, it's important. I was reading something just as I was preparing and just looking at different angles of what it looks like for different parents, whether you're in a single-parent home, two-parent home, mom is raising primarily a father or grandparents. The word that I kept coming up with, or just the phrase that it kept being centered around, is we're modeling unhealthy behavior. I think that's just something you were touching on also, that because of this is what we're teaching these kids. So the same thing, if I didn't have this conversation with my son, then I'm teaching him that this is something okay to do to his children. And so, like, coming from a clinical standpoint, do you hear many situations of cycles of where it probably was somebody just needed a timeout, they needed self-care, and really it just cycled on, and now we have all these other mental health issues when one of the factors could have been just this working mom, this working dad, just going. Do you see some of that within the mental health area?
Definitely, and trauma looks different for everyone. So for a mother and a father who are working really, really hard on their jobs, they come home, they work really, really hard at being parents, but yet that job is constantly pulling them away from their child, then they could have a child that grows up feeling like they've technically been abandoned, right? So that's cyclical. If your child's experience with you causes them some level of trauma. And what I find every day is that I'm working with who have children who don't even understand their own trauma. They don't even understand that maybe they grew up in that type of home. And I actually had a young man say this today. It's like, okay, I was adopted and I felt abandoned simply from being adopted. But the value system that came out of being adopted was I was in a family situation where my mother and my father both used drugs, okay? And so this new family that adopted me, they came in and they saved me. So now, so look at the trauma there. Here, the first piece of trauma is witnessing the abuse and the violence, the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, the drunkenness, the drugging, witnessing all of that. That's trauma for that person. But then being taken from that situation and being, in this client's words, saved, right, by this new family. Well, now this value system that is created says, I'm obligated to make them happy now because they saved me. And so everything that I do now is in order to please them. So now I'm not doing anything that I want to do with my life, and my life is totally unfulfilled. Trauma. Trauma looks different for everyone. So as a parent, you have to go back and you have to look at the environment that you have created for that child to grow and to nurture. Is that environment conducive for positive growth? If it's not, why is that? Did you come up a situation where you're just giving your children all that you knew? And are you settling for that? Or are you going to be stretched into providing them and creating something new, a safe place for your children to grow and to become adults that can nurture their own children? So this is how the cycle continues when we become ignorant to our own devices and to the environment. You know, we got that nature versus nurture idea, to the environment that we were brought up in, to, heredity. Maybe domestic violence is cyclical because it happened with my parents, it happened with my parents' parents, and it happened with my parents' parents' parents. But who stops it? Who's courageous enough to go back and say, this is not what I want for my children, and instead of just wishing and hoping for it, they put themselves in a place to learn and grow how to do something different. So we have to realize that childhood trauma is really at the root of a lot of this, and those negative value systems that we come up with, we can replace them with positive value systems and begin to change the course of our family's lives, essentially changing our culture and our heritage.
Yeah, I think that's super important because I think people don't realize there. And like you said, trauma is in so many different areas, and we automatically go to our thoughts of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and that is definitely a form of trauma, but we don't realize family dynamics and what it looked like in those family dynamics can also be that cycle. And I'm so grateful that you were able to call out just different examples of what that cycle looks like and what it does to our relationships in parenting or our relationships, period, for that matter. And it is like one solution is coming to talk to a counselor about these things. And so I think we got a couple of walls to break down, and that's with the stigma of mental health. It's getting a little better. We're getting a little better. We still ain't done. We're getting a little.
And we have more options now. And there's so many therapists. If you feel like you must work with a woman, then work with a woman. Maybe I have issues with men, and that's a part of my family dynamics, and it's caused some barriers for me. Then work with a woman. If it's the opposite, then just work with whoever you want to work with, because there, it's a powerful relationship to work with a therapist. So you don't want to take that lightly. I offer therapy online. It's new and it's upcoming. Not so new, but it's upcoming, and some states are lagging behind. But you can have therapy now from the comfort of your own home or your own home office. But really what you're doing is you're joining forces with someone who is in support of you. Someone, if you work with me, for example, I'm just someone who just believes that sometimes, you need to work with somebody who believes in you more than you have the ability to believe in yourself at that moment. When I work with people, I have a high expectation for them to succeed. I mean, why else am I working with you if I don't expect you to overcome? I've overcome. So I expect you to overcome. I believe in that, in the human experience, but I also believe that we are spirit beings having a human experience. And the spirit, something greater than us, is in charge. And so you have to realize what your values are when you connect with a therapist. I'm a Christian therapist, so that's where my value system comes from. It's deeply rooted in that. So if your value system is not deeply rooted there, then you don't want to connect yourself necessarily with that person. But maybe you say, well, I'm not a Christian, but I need some support, and I like that she's inspirational and that she has hope. That might be something that you can work with, as long as you're working with someone who's working with you. Okay? In that mindset that you're in this powerful collaboration. That's what therapy is. It's a method of support that, unlike any other, I have seen since I've been in this field some leaps and bounds. And like I said, I've been in therapy myself. So when I realized that I needed some support, oh my goodness, when you go into therapy with the goal to win, it may not even take that long. You just go and you go get what you need. You check yourself before you wreck yourself. You have that force to be reckoned with, because you got somebody who's behind you, who believes in you, and who knows that you can do this work. And that's why my business is called Caterfly's Life Work, making your life's work your life work. Because at the end of the day, what you want your life to be about? When you pass through the pearly gates, what will they say about you? What was your life mission about? And in order to come up with that, there's a process of work all must do on ourselves. So when I'm working with people, if I'm working harder than you, then we ain't doing something right. You have got to get in there, yes, and decide that you are valuable and that you're going to work on this thing for yourself, first and foremost, and for your family. So coming back to self-care is very important because until you do that for yourself, you cannot be effective in helping your family. You can't help your children with their homework. You can't help them with the bullying situations that they go through maybe on the schoolyard. You can't help your teenager with identifying and fitting in. You can't help your 21 or 25-year-old with what they're going to go through on the yard at that new college that they're going to if you're not taking care of yourself. And there are too many options out here now for us to ignore them and to ignore caring for ourselves. So I just encourage everybody that's listening to invest in yourself. And a lot of times we want things for free. Hey, I'm going to just be honest. There's some great people in community support services who are doing service work that don't get paid a dime. But that's not always the case. So you may need to invest in the support that you need so that you can overcome in the area that you're looking for overcoming in.
That's true. It is. I think we just have to look at valuing ourselves a lot more. I take my own advice with that. Just knowing the worth that you have and what it's really going to take in it. It takes that investment. And an investment is mental investment. That investment is physical investment, emotional investment, and all those spiritual investments into yourself in order to continue adding more value to you. I've never really heard it put before about we can actually have negative values, but now it's oh, you're absolutely right. And so that was a really good way to look at it. I've never seen it before looked at like that. Before we get out of here, I definitely want to let's give them some ways they can reach you, and maybe some starters with some ways to do some basic self-care that they can do at home, that they can just do to implement their time. So we've already discussed definitely about how to recognize those signs. That's a big one. But maybe there are some particular quick things that they can do, not the little 5-minute go sit down, but just some quick ways that we can share with them as you share your information also with how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, well, I'll share some quick ways first. Personal development always starts with, when you're in the car, what you listening to? Are you listening to Jodeci, or are you spending some time doing some, listening to a book or some educational materials that might edify you and build you up? Are you listening to different messages? I hate reading, I'll just be honest with you, and I'm an author of a great book called Silhouette of Her, Naked and Unashamed. But I prefer to listen to a book on audio tape, and that's how I spend my time in my car, doing self and personal development. So that might be one way. Another way is affirmations, and affirmations can be found in all kind of resources like books, like audio tapes, like the Bible. That's a really great place to find affirmations. Just take some time and go look in a positive book like the Bible and find things that really resonate with you about who you are. Like one of my favorite scriptures says, I'm the head and not the tail, I'm above and not beneath. Another one says that my price is far above rubies. And the reason that one works for me a lot is because my birthstone is also a ruby. So it just resonates with me. And so when I need that extra push, that's something that I hold on to, and I hold on to it dearly. There's another little tip that I have for you called using a structure. A structure could be anything that reminds you of a positive place or a positive value and where you want to be. So, for example, if in self-care you realize that you've gained too much weight and you want to work on that, well, what you have to do is first love yourself where you are, but maybe you take a picture of you when you were at the optimal weight, health condition that you want it to be, and or level of life satisfaction that you want it to be. Maybe that picture reminds you of that. Maybe a stuffed animal for some reason reminds you of that. Maybe some other kind of trinket reminds you of that. And that's something that you might keep with you wherever you go. That's called using a structure in your life. So those are 3 quick ways that you can begin to look at self-care. And I'll add another one, investing in yourself. So something that may cost you some money, like going to the spa, seeing a therapist, and maybe even a coach. I'm also a life coach as well. So working with a coach, and I have found, honestly, like I said, I've had therapy. I've also just recently got out of a coaching situation with my coach who I actually found on Facebook, and it was an invaluable experience. So I'll leave you with that. And then the way that you can contact me for therapy or life coaching, I can work with anyone in any state. So boundary is not an issue if you're open to online therapy. You can reach me at RichaleReed.com. That's RICHALE, Reed, REED.com, RichaleReed.com. The phone number that you can reach me at is 336-355-7237, 336-355-7237. And again, I do life coaching and therapy for mental health and addiction, and it doesn't matter where you're located. We can work together if you are the right fit. And I promise you, if I am not the best person to help you succeed, I will give you an appropriate referral because I am, I'll say it as a friend of mine said the other day, my woman's worth is not for sale. You cannot buy me. So if I'm not the person for you, I promise you I will send you to who I think would be the best person to help you. It's up to you to make that decision for yourself. But I think that, you know, like I said, it's an honor to work with people, but you have to know how valuable you are, and you have to pick your life coach or your therapist very wisely. So do that, and if you simply need help, you know, sometimes I get people that just call me, and I am not appropriate for them, and I do all that I can to help them find an appropriate person. It doesn't matter if it takes me 15 or 20 minutes on the phone with you to help lead you in the right direction. I'll do that.
Well, thank you, Richale. This has really been so insightful, and I'm going to take all the advice myself. So as well as pass it on. I believe in in order to give out, I need to be strong too, or it's not effective. So I do thank you for just taking the time to just be a part of this series and shining some light. I'll definitely follow up and send referrals your way as well. And so thank you so much for joining me. Okay, and let me add one more thing. Can I add one more thing before we go? My book, Silhouette of Her, Naked and Unashamed, is on my site, and it's also on Amazon.com. And the great thing about the book is, in addition to it, you can get I have a free PDF that helps take you through some self-care tools like choosing affirmations and gratitude on that website. So you get the book, and then you go to my website and you download that free PDF, and that will take you on your way through that book in a new process, and you will begin on that journey of personal development and affirming yourself and on that journey to self-care. Oh, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Richale, and we'll definitely be in touch.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Source Nation, that was my guest, Richale Reed, and we just continued our series of self-care for parents. And I want you to tune back in next week as we finish the series, and we're going to talk about getting your spiritual together. You're definitely some more in the mental side, but your spiritual part that Richale mentioned, getting that part together. And so I want you to tune back in next week as I continue the series of self-care for parents. And if you want to reach out to me, my email address is jabryant1913@gmail.com. I can be found on my website, www.b3mentalperformances.com, and follow me on Twitter at Jaketra B. And I'm your host, Jaketra Bryant, and you're listening live to Family Mix Mondays. Tune back in next week.